Here we are at the conclusion of Pacific Trails Chapter 8. This is the third video in this series where we finish this up using the large layout with grid CSS responsive design. Okay, so we're going on to task 4. Finally, this is going to be easy, I think, since we have done all the things. Let's go ahead and open this up. Okay, so right now we've got two sizes, right? We've got our mobile size, and then it breaks or pops at 600 pixels, I think. And then yeah, here. So then it goes on and on and on, and it gets super weird around here. And then let's see what else we got. The yurts page has these 3 columns, and we did a grid for that. And then the activities also has the 3-column layout with using grids. I'm not loving this at this size. I would probably change it. Like this looks nice, but yeah, it looks a little wacky here. So something to think about in your own design. Do you really want people to be reading like that? Up to you. Man, you can have as many media queries as you want, right? So you can change layouts left and right. You could have like a combination, right? So lots of things to think about. Okay, so moving in let's open up our CSS file. Still on chapter 4, that's crazy. Let's change that up. Okay, so task 4 is configure a large grid layout. Remember that we are always going to, now when we're adding these media queries, we're going to go all the way down to the bottom. So that basically the browser is going to render, it's going to say, it's going to read everything and it's going to be like, okay, this is how I want it to be. And then it's going to get to the bottom and it's going to be like, oh, wait, but at my minimum width of 600, I'm going to do this thing. And it's going to like change it based on whatever that is. And it's going to happen in a lot faster time than it took me to explain it. So let's see, we got this, configuring for grid or configuring for the yurts. I am going to shut this. All right, this is great. I can shut it down. I don't care about it right now, so I'm just going to collapse it. But look at that. It's kind of cool because you can see the difference. It's actually like 46 lines of code. So let's go to the new one. I'm going to start with a large layout. And this is going to be with grid all the way around. We're not going to use any flexbox in this. So let's start with media and min width of 1024. Now, the only reason why I agree with this 1024 is that they're going to have, if we go into the browser and let's see. No, no. Here we go. Let's open this sucker up somewhere. I'll do it in Firefox today. In my video, I'm putting a Moana picture because I had that gigantic tangent. I cut it out though. It was crazy. Okay, so I'm going here and I'm looking at, I'm going to open up my inspector and I'm using Firefox. Firefox has the inspector and everything on the bottom. I don't know that I love that. I'm not sure if we can change it. Oh, there we go. Dock to the right. I like that much better. So I can change that. And I'm going to look and I'm going to see what happens as I move over. Okay, so it's crazy. I kind of like the tools better in Google Chrome because remember in Google Chrome we could start moving this and it would show up right here. The size, well now it's showing up down here, I think, or like in here. So that's kind of annoying that we have to go all the way to that. So as we keep going to 700. So for me, it kind of gets awkward here, right? But what they want is, let's see, they want around 1024. So it's like around here somewhere. And that is because if you can remember, our large site had a navigation that was a column here. So that makes sense. That's totally fine. And then that gives us this reading space over here because remember, we want the reading space to be about the size of a book, you know, and what happens on these large screens is it becomes, this really long thing. And people with ADHD or other neurodiversities, it you can lose your place really easily. You're like reading and it's like this incredibly long sentence, and then you have to go all the way back to the beginning on the next line. It's it's actually like overloading the brain in just a little way. Okay. And some different neurodiversities, the slightest overload can like set the person off and trigger. And I know this from experience. Okay. So yeah. All right. So we want to have like a reading area of about here. That's comfortable. Okay. It keeps your brain, okay, I can read this a little better. There are some really cool tools out there for reading if reading is hard for you, that you can, like there's, oh my gosh, there's so many cool things. What's it called? Um, Read and Write. It's like a browser tool. Oh man, I forgot what it's called. Now I'm gonna have to go figure it out, but I won't right now. But there's lots of stuff out there. There's even like this different type of reading where it bolds like certain letters so that when you're reading, it attracts your eye to these particular letters. And so it helps you like focus in on the words. It's really neat. So you can take any text and you can make it into a browser tool and then it'll change the text on the page. Very cool. I learned that when I was designing a universal design class. Okay, so they want to do 1024. That's cool with me. Let's go back. All right, so we did that. And we remembered never to put a semicolon there because it'll drive you crazy if you can't figure out why, but that is why we use the CSS validator. All right, let's code the following styles. We're going to configure styles for the navigation. Oh, we're still doing a flex in the navigation. So we're doing the descendant selector, unordered list. Here, so we've got flex direction property. What is super annoying is it says flex direction property. It's not. That's not it. It's actually flex flow. And it took me a really long time yesterday to figure that out. So they I don't know why they're trying to screw with us like that, but whatever. It happened. So we're going to go and we're now going to change it to column because remember, we want that one column on the left, just like we had it when we first um, did the float and everything in chapter 7, I think. All right, so we're doing flex flow column, and then we're setting the top padding to 1 EM. Padding on the top is 1 EM, which is the size of the browser's standard text. Then we're going to configure the styles for the wrapper. Now, I screwed up on this one yesterday pretty bad. You guys actually get me at a better point because I've already done it once during the week. I'm going to set the area to be horizontally centered. I hate that they're giving us the hint because we all need to know that by now, that it's, if we're, the reason why it's saying the area is we're talking about like the box within the box. So in the wrapper, if you can remember, in our index, or actually, let's do this. Okay, so the wrapper, show you up in there. Remember, I can use my browser tools to kind of check everything out. I have the body, and then I have this div ID wrapper. So it's around everything. So I can imagine that's like my first layer. Well, technically the body is like my first layer. And if you guys have ever, it's like my background layer. If you guys do Photoshop, then you understand this a little better. So you got the background, right? And then you start having layers and layers and layers. And that's what's happening in HTML. But it's like sandwiched together rather than like separate different layers the way that Photoshop works. But if I go over here, so I have everything inside of here, I'm going to make it so that it is centered. And all of these elements are areas of the wrapper. Okay. Um, and we're not talking about the text. Okay. Because these properties like the unordered list, that's a property of the navigation. So it's not going to affect the individual properties of those elements, but it's going to affect the those elements that give define space, okay, define area. Alrighty, so inside the wrapper, we are doing margin. Auto. Great. And then we're doing an 80% width. So an 80% width is going to make it so that the screen, like the viewing screen, is only taking up 80% of the browser window, which just gives it like a nice little background because I think our body has some sort of color, background color to it. And again, it's just kind of helping the viewable area. Okay, and then it's telling us dark blue border. Remember in CSS, there's a bunch of different colors that we can have. So solid, 1 pixel solid, dark blue, but I have to do it in one full word. I don't separate the words. But there's lots of colors that you can just use. But if you're doing like brand standards and stuff, if you're using brand standards, you want to make sure that you're using the hex of your brand. Okay, so configure this selector to be a grid container. Okay, so a grid container, that means that we have to set what? Anybody know how to make something, how to display something as a grid? Oh, you're right, display, good job. All right, so I'm saying good job to anybody that might have been thinking about it. You never know. Let's see. Just kidding. All right, I'm gonna enter that. It's obviously not working for me right now. Wow. There it is. Okay. Display grid. So that is setting us up. That's the only way that we can use a grid is if we display as a grid. And this grid display also is that trick that we use to horizontally center like items. Okay. So it's a big good thing. Also too, I believe we can vertically align things. That's something that's always a trick that I have to look up every time I want to vertically align things. Can you guys see my video anymore? Or did it disappear? Yeah, no? Yes. Okay. Because I can't see it, but that's fine. All right, so now we are going to do the grid template columns and the grid template rows. And so what they're asking us now is to, they want us to use 8.56 as a guide. Okay, so this is kind of fun. What we did in task 3, we looked and they just gave it to us. So if you go back to figure 8.55, sorry, we're on page 303 and 304. On page 303, figure 8.55, it shows us how we did these grid template rows, grid template columns. Basically, what we're doing is defining how much of the free space is going to make up like the columns and the rows. Now, something I learned yesterday, I wanted to make my whole page, like the rows is where I messed up on. I started counting as if this were split into rows of like 10 rows, right? And then with those 10 rows, then I kind of thought, okay, well, then the header's like taking up 1, dividers like 2 or 3, main 5, and then footer 1. And so I use the FR, and FR is free space. So it's going to take up a fraction. That's where the FR stands for, the fraction of the free space. So the thing is it's still restricting on some level, okay? Because now it's saying anything that's in there needs to size so that it's taking up a fraction. And so maybe if we have time, I'll show you how that screwed up everything. But for now, let's go. Okay, so all right. Grid. Okay, grid template columns. So here's the thing. Remember how we were talking about, I know that there's going to be 3 here. I think it's 3. Let me see. Auto. I think it's auto and auto. Let me look. Because here's, and I'll tell you why. Okay, back up here in your media at 600 pixels. Now, this is still affecting the 1024 because 1024 is still over 600 pixels, right? So whatever is in here is affecting it so long as we did not change it yet in our 1024, right? So like we've changed the unordered list a little bit, but we never even touched the wrapper up in our 650 or 600. So we changed the direction here, but nothing else. And section content. So the only place that we actually changed grid templates originally was in the content main, right? And then now it's asking us on the wrapper. So the content main, remember, is in, oops, oh, let's just go through everything. Okay, is in, go back here. Now I just want to use this all the time. I only use it for like certain purposes, and now I'm realizing just how amazing it is. So I hope you do too. Here is the main. Okay, I really do like, I'm changing it. I am putting this in. One of the things that Chrome is doing, sorry, I was having a hard time talking and typing at the same time. One of the things that Google Chrome's inspector does better, there's a few things, but check this out. If I go up here and I start dropping stuff, not there, not the navigation, but the main, where is the thing that tells me there's a grid? Let's see. Layout. Is this it? Here's the wrapper, and then this main is supposed to have, interesting. It should say grid. It says no grid layouts found. Hold on. Oh, I know what happened. I didn't save it today. Let's see. Nope, I did not save it. Okay, so I saved it. Let me go back over here now. I should have a grid. Let's see. Weird. Am I even on the right one? Let's see. Okay. 11, 9, 137. Weird. Okay. It should show up. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, let's see. Okay. Min width. No, that is the thing that got me that one time. And that's the thing that I had to find out in the CSS validator that it's not to do that, which is super annoying because that's what I think I should do. So it's not that. It's very strange. I'm not sure because up here it should have the grid. Yesterday it did, which is stupid. So why isn't it doing it today? This is the right one. Don't understand. Yesterday it was showing up with like grid on there. Now I was using, oops, I was using, sorry, someone calling me. Let's see. I was using a Mac. Huh, that's so interesting. Layout, no grid layouts. Oh, you guys, I just finally figured it out. What was the only 2 pages that had grid layouts in our last project? It's not the dang homepage, that's for sure. Okay, so I'm just gonna go to a different page. Aha! Okay, so that was the problem. I was going to the homepage, but the homepage didn't even have grid because the only thing that the homepage had was the Flexbox, and that's what it showed, right? It had Flexbox overlays. Now it shows this grid overlay. So if I start expanding this guy over here, expand my body, expand my wrapper, there it is. Gosh, see, I knew something would distract or something would get in the way. Here's the grid. So isn't that cool? I get to see the grid in my browser tool. Just another reason why it's wonderful. And it actually, notice here, I can change what color. No, I don't want that color. I want this color. It's awesome. So I have layout, I have what the grid is, and it's showing me what the grid lines are. So if we look back at the previous, the way we set up the grid in the main, which is inside the wrapper, we had the template rows were automatic. So because it was automatic, that means it's just whatever is in here, like the H2 is just going to fit where it fits. And then all of these sections are just going to fit the way it fits. And it's going to fit it inside the main, right? But then the columns we wanted specific because we wanted each column to be the same width, right? And so we decided to do one FR, one FR, one FR. So each one is taking up 33%, but we're not calling it 33%. We're calling it one fraction, 1/3, right? So it's split into 3 columns, so it's 1/3. And then as you see, we go to the H2 and then it has the grid row. Okay, so it has the grid row in H2 and it says grid row starts at 1, ends at 2. So these lines are actually helping you to know what 1 and 2 are. Because weirdly enough, it's the lines and not like yesterday I was trying to think, I thought it was like the number of spaces it took up, like the number of rows it took up. And it's not, it's the lines. And so from 1 to 2, that's where my H2 is. Let's open this sucker right here. Okay. So H2 is from 1 to 2, and you can see that in page 303 on number 2. And then it says grid column is 1 out of 5. So it starts at 1 and ends at 5. So it spans across the entire main element. And then we've got these 3 sections, and now they are starting, the grid row is 2. So they're starting at line 2. And then they're going all the way down to line 3. Okay. And then the columns, they made it auto, which is necessary. Okay. Because it's necessary because the columns are being defined by the grid template columns in main. So we say it's auto because we've already said, okay, we want 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, so we don't have to define it again because it's just going to take up whatever's there. So we say auto. So my whole point to getting to, to really emphasize this is because I screwed up so bad yesterday with the wrapper. Because now what we're doing is we're going to put a grid on top of this grid already, like over it, right? So we're like trying to almost supersede it. But since it already has some grid stuff in there, we don't want to screw that up, right? Which I did royally yesterday. And so we don't want to screw that up. So we want to think about what's happening in that main as we are designing our wrapper. And so we want to start with auto. I want to see, like, can we just do auto for the actual templates? Probably not, because let's see. The problem here is that if we look at the wrapper on page 304, figure 8.56, it only has 2 columns, right? And here we have 5 or 3, right? But it goes to 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. Why would it be 1, 2, 3, 5? Don't know. Don't care because it's working. So that's fine. Anyways, so we should only have 2. And 1 needs to be, it says it right there. Since it's giving us a specific width in column 1 of 180 pixels, well, our first column then is going to be 180 pixels. So I was wrong. Let's go back and let's close this again. I like it closed. And then we're going to go here, and the columns can't be auto. Okay, because I have a definitive 180 pixels. So I'm 180 pixels, and then it's auto. So it's whatever's left over, right? That's going to be the automatic. I don't have to put in a fraction or anything like that. But then the rows, now I've got row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. I could try to style those, or to make them certain sizes, except I know that each of these elements inside already take up their own space, you know? So especially this H2. This H2 element really was the thing that screwed me up the most when I tried to define the rows in the wrapper. Okay, so right now we should be able to save this and have something happen. Oops, but I have to press the right button. Oh, not yet, huh? Let's see. Ba-ba-da-ba. Okay, well, not yet because I haven't. Let's see, what did I do so far? This should be a column. That should be that. Good. Did I fix the mid-width thing? Oh, that's what you're saying. I'm sorry. No. I thought you meant the semicolon at the end. And I was like, no, no, no. Okay. A plus for you today, buddy. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So it's definitely screwed up. Look at that. Isn't that fun? Yay. So it got rid of the divider. So obviously I probably can't have the auto rows, but let's see. So let's keep going and see what happens next. But I do want to show you, well, Control S again. I do want to show you back here when I refresh the page. Should, no? Okay, so it still has, let's see, still has the main grid, but it doesn't have this grid yet. So let's see. Looks like we really, really have to have the other wrapper elements in there. So now we're going to configure child elements of the wrapper. So we start with the wrapper. We're doing child elements, which is like using a descendant selector. And so we're going to do the header. Okay, and the header is going to be, well, where does the header start? If we're thinking about the lines that we can look at on 304, the header starts at 1. Oops, geez, come on. Grid row. Let's start with row. So okay, fine. We'll start with row. So the grid row is 1, starts at 1, ends at 2. Okay. And we're just going by the elements. Like the main elements are defining the rows for us. Okay. And then we have grid row 1 to 2. Then we've got grid column. We have to define that as well. And that is 1 to 3. Okay. Because it starts at 1 and goes all the way across, it spans. It's going to be over that navigation. And there we go. That's it for header. Now we have inside the wrapper, we have the navigation. And where does the navigation of the row start? The grid row, it starts at line 2, right? If we look at that. And so we put 2 where it starts, and then where does it end? It ends all the way at 5. Okay. And then even though we didn't define this, the rows and that wrapper, it's going to know because it's like an automatic thing. Grid column. But we still have to say where in the grid it's placed. And that's what we're doing. Even though it's an auto grid. So the column is just 1 to 2. And then, and it's hard because you're like, oh, I'm using this division sign, and like doesn't that mean I'm dividing? Doesn't that mean it's a fraction? And you just got to get your head wrapped around that it's just indicating start and stop, and that's annoying. I wish they would have used a different symbol because it's just confusing as all. Wrapper again. And I'm going to do, what's the next wrapper? Let's see. Div. Let's see. So the div is the home hero. So all of those home heroes. And that's going to be, where is that going to start? So that is next to the navigation. So it starts, let's see. And under the header. So let me do my same pattern and keep on trying to change it. Grid row is then going to be between 2 and 3, right? Even though it's bigger, it's still going to know that it's supposed to be bigger. And then grid column is between 2 and 3. And I might have been able to use auto for that, but we'll do this. And then hashtag wrapper. A lot of this, again, is you learning just based on trial and error. The main. The main is going from grid row 3, 2, 4, and the grid column. I think I can do auto now because we have the definition of the nav. Let's see. I don't know. If it doesn't work, then we'll fix it. Main, and then we have footer. And the footer is grid row. Now this, I think we can do auto. Let's see. And grid column. What happens if I do auto? Let's save this sucker. Oh, look at that. Yay. It worked. Hallelujah. So because the reason why I could use auto here, okay, in fact, I probably could have done auto here, okay, because it's being defined previously in the navigation. Like the navigation has a set, like, hey, it's starting at 1 and it's going to 2. So it's basically saying, and then also the header, starting at 1, ending at 3. And so since that navigation is above everything else, it's defining the area underneath based on its properties. And so I can use auto for the other properties that are below the navigation because then it's just going to fit the way it's supposed to fit. Let's see what happens when I look at yurts. Look at that. It's lovely. So it didn't change. Wait, it didn't even change the navigation. Oh no, what happened? Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay. Oh, but there's something wrong here. Maybe we have more to do. We have to make this text align left, I think. And let's see, let's go back to home. Oh yeah, I didn't text align yet, obviously. Okay, so we'll do that next. But we can see yurts done. So it didn't change anything in the main because I didn't screw with the rows. I didn't define the rows in the wrapper, so the rows in main remained intact. I was trying to control the control the rows within the wrapper, and it totally messed us up. It was just like all over the place. Um, so it's interesting. You have to remember, and that's the cascading part, right? Cascading is coming down and down and down. And so whatever happened up here is going to affect what's down here. So we just have to keep on remembering and going back. And that's just a part of that troubleshooting when things don't work right, is being able to go back up and find the issues using all our wonderful tools, of course. All right, where's the thing that tells me to make it go to the left? I don't know. Where'd it go? Oh, left. Okay, that was number 2. I just skipped it. It was the UL. There we go. Flexible column, padding, and then text align. Got to do the text align because it looks weird. Centered. And when you get this big, yeah, that's better. Okay. And then it still, look, it still picks up those properties from the initial, like back way up at the top. When we define the way that the links were going to be, behave. It still has that. So it still hovers red and, has that lighter blue color. Okay. But remember, I just want to remind you over and over, you want multiple access points to these pages regardless, right? You want to have your linked, and activities, some sort of thing, all these things linked. So you have multiple access points for people who don't know what navigation is. I don't know. Okay, so let me drop that up. We're good. That's it. That's it, y'all. I mean, we already know that this works, but let's just see. Let's just see if there's anything that gets picked up when we put it in the W3 CSS validator by direct input. See, like with these, I'm just like, there's no reason to like give me screwed up files, you know? Just take that time. And then what's great about that is then you get this congratulations and it's green and you makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Might be just a personal thing. All right, so let me check this too. Control A, Control C, change that around. I forget what the one, W3 HTML validator. Oops. Well, it doesn't matter, right? I mean, I don't have to know these things. I don't have to know all the links to things, guys. Our browsers remember everything. And if we just can start remembering a little bit of what we had, it'll all work out. Let's see. Boom, it's green. Green is good. Okay. So this is nice. This is nice. I can confidently turn this in and not get clowned on by my instructor. No, I don't do that. I want to though, sometimes a little bit. Okay, you guys are all great, really. Those other people, just kidding. It's all of them. Okay,